Hello, and welcome to the only podcast where, much like the Mandalorian seasons, one of the hosts is tight and concise, one who leans way too hard onto nostalgia, and the other one whose brain is so scattered it's impossible to follow. I'm Matt.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Max.
This is Force for Thought.
Well, once again, I am not going to take the time to think about who is who.
I'll just assume myself as the most flattering option, as I always do. Hello and welcome. This week we are discussing Season 1, Episode 3 of The Mandalorian, The Sin. At this point, I like to think that other people have been watching The Mandalorian also, which is an exciting thought, but also every time I've ever listened to a podcast and they do a rewatch, I never watched the show with them. So we'll go ahead and keep assuming that you haven't watched the show in years or since release or whenever. You're not sitting in a robe right now, really joining in on the festivities with us. But Season 1, Episode 3, The Sin. It's the one where Din Djarin sells Grogu and then goes back and unsells him because he quite likes him. What did you guys think of this episode, high level?
The
Max?
biggest
Another word
sin,
for unselling is stealing, by the way. I think that's the word you're looking for.
Oh, I guess
Well,
so.
when you're stealing a person, it's like, I don't know. I think unselling, I get if it was like merchandise, but like you're unselling a person, a slave. So it's like you're not stealing him because it's not still enslaved in your possession. I see what you mean, but
I
I
think
think
that
in
opens
this
up a
exact
lot.
context, unselling does work.
I feel like you just don't like the connotation because what I'm trying to get at is that Din Djarin is proven to be a dishonorable man in this episode, which is good. It works well for the story. Obviously, I really like it, but,
Yeah,
not a great bounty hunter.
unselling also implies that he would return the money that he was given for selling, and he definitely did not.
Definitely
He
no.
spent that instant. I was gonna say that's why this episode is called The Sin, is because the biggest sin is that he trades in the cool armor for the shit one.
He didn't
I thought you were
just
just going to say theft.
he didn't just immediately spend all the Beskar. He immediately spent all the Beskar in part on the whistling birds that he also immediately then uses. So it's like we really didn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
I had a question about that, actually, when that came up in this episode, because he uses whistling birds elsewhere throughout the series. Are we to believe that that's always Beskar? Like, does he just keep coming into more of it, or did they use a little bit of that Beskar to make, like, 10 rounds for him?
I don't know. I can picture him using it at least one other time, but
I
don't
assumed
know.
the 10-round situation for some reason as well. Because I don't think... He's pretty hard up to find Beskar for a while, or the money to come into it. And I feel like if we're led to believe he had that suit forever, it's going to be so hard for him to come up against more that quick. Or he just perfected his job really quickly when we start the story.
Max, what did you think of this episode? Did you like it?
It's fantastic. Yes, I give it a 10 out of 10. I think this is a refreshing return to the plot that was set up in episode 1. I think episode 2 took a weird side turn, and then episode 3 kind of brings it back together. I think it's short, punchy, concise. It helps move the overarching plot very positively, and I think it has one of the greatest fights of all time. I recently talked about this exact episode when we were ranking our non-lightsaber, non-space battle fights, because I said that this is a good fight with Din Djarin when he's storming the client's headquarters and he's using his full kit to take out all these enemies and then eventually all the other bounty hunters in the street and everything. I think it's some of the best action in The Mandalorian.
Yes, we did put heavy asterisks on that best fights episode, that it's the best fights without a lightsaber and not in a space battle, because it's definitely one of the best fights given those qualifiers, but top 25 maybe without them. But yes, I agree. Good fight scene with no lightsabers. Matt, what'd you think of this episode?
Absolutely ditto to everything Max said. I think the only two things I would add is I love it's not even adding, but in those scenes, I feel like you can feel what the street feels like. I love that the set. I feel like him walking through those, those little corridors and those things, those streets. I feel like feels like a real place, which is really refreshing and nice too. Especially pre-Andor, this was like it really felt like you were like living in those little cities, and which was nice. And then the ending is great. I feel like that's what we all wanted to kind of see when Mandalorian started, and we got to see it finally. So this episode is the best episode I think thus far. What rewatching, and also it gives Din Djarin some depth to him. Keep going back for Grogu, which is great. Luke.
I don't want to rank them as we go, but after you said that this is the best episode so far, I think I like episode 1 better still, but it's close. I definitely like this better than episode 2. Not that I disliked episode 2, but yeah, I also really liked this episode. I feel like we have already moved past the fascination and admiration of when Star Wars looked so good. Like when I was watching this in 2019 and what you were saying, like the atmosphere and the streets and stuff, it looked perfect. It looked like retro Star Wars in that same time period, which it's not like the sequels didn't do that, but it just looked, it has its own, the sequels have their own look, which isn't worse in my opinion. Some people will say it is, but this has that original trilogy look and it's amazing. And now in 2025, it's like even the worst Star Wars show, like every Star Wars show has, I think, nailed the aesthetic. I don't think I've had that problem with a single show, and so they all kind of, it doesn't jump out at me anymore. But this was the first time I had that feeling, and I was super stoked, and we should give it its praise now just because it set the bar for everyone else to do the same thing over the next 6 years. But yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree that other shows have lived up to that bar, but I certainly agree.
And
that
just
this
set
is
design,
like the gold standard for it.
What show doesn't look as good with just set design?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, that set design is just as
For
good.
being such a dirty, gritty planet, everything looks way too clean. No, and everything is shot in broad daylight. Like again, in this episode, they did such a good job of making it feel dirty. Like when you're in the client's headquarters and like it's dark and it's dim in there and everything. Like not everything needs to be super bright in order for it to be lit well. Like I feel like they used lighting very well in this episode. And sometimes when you're dealing with a lot of prosthetics and creatures that are animatronics or puppets or whatever, and it's like if you film them in too high a quality and too good of light, it just really makes it more noticeable that it's not real. So it is like this weird thing where it can't be like that great of quality to kind of like blur some of the
and to
edges a little bit.
Kind of echo what you're saying a little bit on the same token is I feel like they really used every inch of that set. I think, Max, you and I talked about this when it was coming out, I'm pretty sure a lot of those sets are just the same exact sets shot from a different angle. So it's like if he's walking down the hall, like just say like a corridor and there's a bunch of doors on each side, I'm pretty sure they just basically set the hallway up a little differently and then shot it from the other way so it looks totally different. Which is not a bad thing. That's using every bit of money you have. And I think they do that, especially in season 1, to a great degree. And they make these sets look fresh and new every single time, whether it's reused or the fact that we start this episode in the same city during the day and then we end it at night is a really nice way to be able to have that, I think, tone shift while not being visually boring. Like you said, just like Max, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where like Book of Boba Fett does... It's a broad daylight the entire time, versus I feel like being able to see the set at night gives it a whole different life.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and I disagree, but I see your point, so I'll digress for today. But moving into the episode, we start with that sequence of Mando and Grogu flying back to the planet that we've been talking about this whole time, whose name escapes me. What's this planet called? Navarro. Thank you. And Grogu starts playing with the little dinger that he likes to play with. That is setting up a nice moment for later.
Oh yeah,
I like that, and I've been a stickler throughout this rewatch series, and I will continue to be to try to stay on on topic and go through it like scene by scene more or less throughout the episode. But I do want to talk about the payoff with that right now and so maybe this whole episode will be a lot more scattered than I usually like it to be. But that's I'm gonna bring it up because the visual storytelling that we get later of Mando going back into the ship and going to pull that thing and the dinger's not there and then he gets sad and he goes back and rescues Grogu. That is a great beat. And it's set up enough, but I just couldn't help but think it could have been set up so much more effectively and efficiently if they dedicated more story to this. And I was like, well, then you'd have to redo a lot of stuff. But the fact that episode 2 was so unrelated to everything, and then there's even a little bit of, well, they could have established that better, that bothered me, because if there's anything that needs more fleshing out, you could have so easily removed so much of season 2 to do more in that regard. I think episode 2 definitely should have gotten them back to Navarro already, and we should have spent a lot less time on that planet with Kuil and the Jawas. I didn't mind it while we were there, but now once we're back, it's like there is a minimum amount of story that we're trying to get through here, and we did waste time with the Jawas not doing that.
Yeah, that's a great call.
After watching episode 3, you realize that episodes 1 and 3 are a great 1-2 punch with a random side quest in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like
that being.
I was just gonna say. At first, I was gonna be like, nah. It was like the little button thing that Grogu has. I was like, maybe it's a nice little moment that like you forget about because it is so minimal, and then you circle back to it. But no, I agree with you, Luke. Like it is like we could have just built up more in general, especially with the side quest. I was like, again, if you have 8 hours to tell a Star Wars story, just milk it for everything you got because there's so much to tell. There's no need to go on side quests.
Yes, and that's the thing that I feel like no one ever talks about when they're talking. I'm trying to think of another example off the cuff now, and I probably won't. But when they're complaining about something in Star Wars, and they're like, they should have explained this a lot more. It's like, well, look at the opportunity cost, because you can't just like remove another part of the movie, and you can't make the movie 30 minutes longer, and so it doesn't work. But you really could have done that with the first 3 episodes of The Mandalorian season 1.
Yes, absolutely.
We then get Mando walking Grogu through Navarro, which is cool seeing it all kind of through his eyes. I mean,
that's like the poster too, right? When he comes off the Razor Crest, that's like the poster for season 1 without Grogu, though, right? Isn't that the shot basically? I'm pretty sure.
I thought that a few times in episode 2 that like, oh, that's the GIF shot that I see all the time.
It is great though, that moment. When they exit the Razor Crest, it feels epic and big, especially for being on, coming off of the heels of Rise of Skywalker, when we're watching this mega production on this huge screen, and then being able to like watch Mandalorian come out of the Razor Crest and walk this city. I think it is pretty cool to see, and you're like, oh wow, like the Star Wars it felt really big in that moment and then we shrink down into these small little corridors and hallways in the city, which is fun.
Yeah, I like it. What?
That was just fun. Anyway,
sorry,
I
jumping ahead in the episode.
Yeah. No, I turned it around.
No, I mean, cut that. My segue was perfectly appropriate. He delivers the asset to the client and Dr. Pershing. I like that scene as well. I was excited to see Werner Herzog get out of the chair. That just because we'd been talking about it so much, I didn't know if he would literally ever get out of the chair, which he does.
When I saw that,
good for him. Yeah, no real notes on that scene. They established what they needed to establish. I
had one small gripe in that scene, and I just like. When he's bringing the child in and then the stormtroopers take it and then Mando's like, hey, take it easy with that. And then the stormtrooper's like, you take it easy. It's like, all right.
Yeah, that felt a bit cringe.
Cartoon villain is villain. Like,
yeah.
I'm like,
okay.
But like,
I don't know if that line needed to be said in there. It did not land.
No, it didn't. There had to be like a line because you can't just let the stormtrooper take shit like that. But yeah, that was not the right rebuttal, Stormtrooper.
It's also like, when do they get sass? Like, I feel like historically Stormtroopers don't distinguish their personalities, but also like who, is that Stormtrooper in comparison to Mandalorian, but also when Din Djarin is in that situation, who the hell is he to tell the Stormtrooper? He just gave. It's basically giving someone a gift and telling them how to handle it. It's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's no longer yours.
You can if you intend to keep it, which is what they were doing, right? Like, I understand, like, they were laying the seeds of, like, showing, like, oh, look, he's attached to the kid. So it's like, I don't fault them for that line from Mandalorian. But the line from the Stormtrooper back at him fell flat.
There was another line that I wanted to bring up because similar to what I was saying that they wasted time in episode 2 not going through the plot like they could have, when Werner Herzog says it's more difficult to find a Mandalorian in these times. That was like our first indication that they are in hiding, other than like seeing them in the basement.
Closer than he knows. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you don't get that in season 1 that like these people are on the run and in hiding. That like they have a cool base, but that's not clear. And then the heavy Mando says later that he exposits a little, and he's like, we're I forget what he says exactly, but he says we're in hiding and we only go out one at a time. That storyline could have been fleshed out a little bit better also with the time that we could have saved from episode 2, because
Yeah, that's a good point.
when he says that, I was like, oh yeah, there's like, that's a whole entire story.
Yeah, like, let's explore that shit instead. It is. I do love. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna complain more, which I don't want to because I do like this episode. But then that's like the whole emotional climax that they come out of hiding to save Grogu because this is the way. And again, that could have been more thoroughly established. But
Which apparently this marks the first episode where that line is spoken,
Hey,
Yeah.
see,
as we established last week.
which actually
and every
is
time
nice.
it's awesome.
It is, and it's great that he is like learning that. Basically, it feels like, or like we're integrating that naturally from a clan of Mandalorian, which is cool. Which is the thing I feel like, you know, obviously he takes that and runs with it. He's like, this is mine now. But I like that. That's one of my favorite aspects is that it is this underground community. It feels like Batman the Animated Series, where it's like this town, you know, underground, which is cool. And yet they have like all these things. Like they have like a full like forgery. Is that what it's called? Like underneath, like it's like
Forge.
how does no one hear that, smell that? Like, you know, how is this functioning?
Yeah.
But like I actually
Where are they venting these fumes to?
Yes, I have a lot of questions. And so there's
I thought the exact same thing actually about the forge. I was
Right?
like, did they build this forge here?
Yes.
Did they find this forge?
I know.
Did they move with this?
I think
Has this been relocated before?
But then that's the things that I hate, that they just have to leave at the end. I was like, oh no, that was so cool. I like that whole aspect of it. Like, just go back underground. It's fine. No one's gonna tell. Like, it's okay. Like, let's continue. But yeah, that it makes sense that they leave. But I'm like, I want to explore that more. But like you said, Luke, just explore episode 2.
I didn't think that the forge was such a big operation. I mean, she's got that big furnace-looking thing, which is large, but like it's not that much larger than like an oven. Like I feel like two
Yeah, but
people
it's like-
could just carry it out, right?
That is substantially larger than an oven.
Yeah,
Is it?
huge. Like where? Like it's like, what house do you move in that just has a kiln? That's a
Well,
hard thing.
Yeah, it's an uncommon thing, but it's not that unrealistic to just move it. Because I also, again, I've seen this show, and I complained about spoilers last week or the week before, but I do vaguely remember that they come back to this forge on Navarro, and the armor is still there. And I'm curious to see if the equipment and stuff will still be there, because I'm sure her hammers are, because she doesn't get out of bed without her hammers. So those
This
will
is
be
exactly
around.
why we're doing this series. The things that we catch on rewatch, you know, you don't think about these things on your first watch through.
No, you don't. And you shouldn't, because it is unimportant, and the story of them saving Grogu because this is the way is way better than the logistics of them moving an item that may or may not be larger than an oven.
But definitely
That
is.
literally
But
is
correct.
basically the entire shtick for our show. Is
Yeah.
we talk about things that are unimportant, but you know what? We're curious about them.
Yes.
How does that work?
Curious, not annoyed.
That makes me feel better about us not being able to come up with a force for thought for this week that we're excited to present, because the
don't
whole
tell
episode
them
is
that.
basically a force for thought. Well, it's nice
I am
to
pumped to share
lower
my force for thought in a
expectations.
Yeah.
little bit.
You
Don't
really set
skip
my
it.
expectations low for it. I'm not gonna skip it.
Not you,
All
them.
right, Mando takes all the Beskar to the armorer, and she forges it for him, and he also has a confrontation, I'll say, with Heavy Mando, or Heavy Infantry is what he goes by in the subtitles. How do you guys like this scene? Max?
It's fine. We get some exposition. Are you talking about the flashbacks that we get to when she starts forging and everything?
Yeah, kind of all that. And that brief fight scene with Mando and Heavy Infantry Mando. They have the vibro knives, which are cool.
It is cool seeing those shake as they use them. I don't know. I don't care about that fight. Like, I understand its point. Like, they're just kind of setting up a little bit of tension between the characters, which has, like, a nice little resolve that he still comes back around at the end of the episode to save him and everything. Like, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. But the actual, like, fight itself, it felt like something that would work better in animation, because in live action, like, you have these actors wearing all of these, like, heavy suits, and, like, they're really not moving all that quick. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird, but like I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it, but I liked what followed when she started forging his chest piece and everything, and he started having the flashbacks to being a foundling himself. That is an interesting thread that I would like to pull a little bit more. And even knowing that we do get like a tiny bit more, I'm still like, I kind of think we can explore that a little bit more. Even like who is the person from Death Watch that took him underneath his wing? You know, like what is the? I mean, do we know? Do we have like an in-universe answer for how old Din Djarin is?
I guess
he would have been. I mean, how old do you think he was in that flashback? That would have been during the Clone Wars, and he was probably like
8,
maybe
6 or 8,
8,
yeah.
7, 6, something like that. So that would have been during the Clone Wars. What is that? That would have been like 3 years, and then Revenge of the Sith, and then 19 years from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope, and then what is it? 4 years until Return, and how many years after Return is this?
5.
5, so that's 19 plus 4 is 23 plus 5 is 28. That cannot be right.
And then Mando's 36. Why not?
So he would be 36. I don't know. I feel like Pedro Pascal he does not. Eventually, when he takes his helmet off, he does not look like a 36-year-old man.
Do you think he looks
Because
older?
he's much older or much younger?
Pedro, I think he looks like he's 50.
I think he could pass for 36 though.
Yeah, how old is he? In real life?
I would guess around 50. I don't know.
can Google this.
I'm
going to guess 46.
going to guess 50. Oh, 50. Born in 75.
50 on the money?
Yeah.
Okay. And this would have been in 19, so he would have been 45. No,
44. Yeah. And plus, it's also Star Wars, and I feel like it's okay if anyone looks a lot older than they actually are, because, you know, it's the years, it's the mileage, not the years. And
grizzled.
His skincare. Well, would his skincare routine be great or horrible because no sunshine and no, like,
you know, I would say
dirt getting on your face?
To the no sunshine aspect, I'm doing fine. I don't think it's that bad.
Matt is Benjamin Buttoning his 30s.
No, I just mean I don't go outside much. That's a lie. I actually think I've been
and
outside
you look great.
the most. So thanks, yeah. When you said he took his helmet off, and I was like, he could be 36, and me realizing that's like 4 years away from me only was like, no, he looks older. He looks older than that.
But it's the mileage, not the years. You know, he's seen some shit. He's been at war basically for 30 of those years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same but opposite when you're a kid and you're watching movies of kids in high school and you're just like, yeah, this is what high schoolers look like. And then you're an adult watching this and you're just like, these people are 30 years old.
I feel like that's how I felt about you when we first met in college. I was like, this man can grow a full beard, and I have like a pencil mustache, and I can't grow anything further than that. And I still, now, 12 years later, I'm in the same boat.
Matt's first impression of me was this. Now this is a man.
Exactly.
This is what I've been missing all my life.
Oh, Luke, that's not even a joke. Best friends.
All right, so Mando and that guy have their fight, which it is I disagree that it would have, well, it might have worked better in animation, but I really liked it visually. Mostly the reactions of the armorer not reacting while this is all happening, and she's just minding her business, and she seems so used to this happening all the time. I thought that was cool. I like the vindictive nature between their Mando and Heavy Mando, because looking at it, like thinking about it, they come out one at a time, and Mando's out like all the time. Like, yeah, I would resent the hell out of this guy. He's the one that gets to go outside. Is that what I'm led to believe is their arrangement? Everyone else has to stay in while he's out, and he's out most of the time? That sucks. I would hate him.
Yeah,
It's true. Why is
that
why
is a bummer.
I don't know.
Also,
I don't know.
maybe dangerous though for him.
What do you mean dangerous for Mando?
Heavy Mando to go out consistently. I feel like that's gonna be dangerous. Is he taking one for the team?
I'm sure the fact that they're like warriors and stuff, they would much rather go out into the danger than just stay hidden.
Yes, that's true. We just have different perspectives of that. I realize now. That's the
Oh, I
disconnect.
would, if I was a Mandalorian, I would be very happy in the covert.
Yeah. Also, the flashback scenes are great, especially at the time. How much mystery there was around Din Djarin, right? His name, who he is, what's his backstory, what he looks like, and that's. I mean, we'll get to it at the end of the show, but it's one of those things where like, oh my god, what is he gonna look like? And it's like, oh yeah, it's Pedro Pascal. But the same thing with the flashbacks. Like Max, I agree. I wish we did see more of that backstory because it is so interesting. I feel like we, as the audience in the show, move past it pretty quickly. Like there's not much mystery to him anymore. We kind of get these nuggets and that's about it. But I feel like there is a lot more to explore there, and like his backstory too.
I think there's a ton to explore with his backstory.
Yeah.
Again, I barely remember the show apparently, but like Moff Gideon knows his name somehow, and I feel like we didn't see that fully explained. Like how, I don't know. Maybe we do, and I'll come to regret saying this on pod, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot I don't know about Din Djarin still. I mean, I don't know anything about the man other than his name is Din Djarin from his entire life since he got picked up by Death Watch. Which, Max, you said about the guy that took him under his wing from Death Watch. It's my understanding that was just one of the Mandalorians, and then he became a foundling, and he just grew up as a foundling like everyone else. I don't think that guy has any more relevance to his life than any of the other older Mandalorians to him.
But just being able to bring him in, though, right? Like that.
But
takes...
also the reason I was thinking about the age too is because like how old is Mandalorian relative to all the other Mandalorians in the covert? You know, like is there like an elder in there? Because all the actors are around the same age.
That's true.
I would like to see an elder Mando.
We see some old ones on Mandalore in season 3. They're getting pretty old, aren't they?
Yeah, but those aren't the ones without their helmets on, though. The ones who are just have been on Mandalore the whole time. Yeah, but those wouldn't have been part of his tribe. That's
true.
what I'm talking about, or people within his clan.
I feel like
I mean,
also
who raises the foundlings?
They all do, right?
But who would it have been for them? Because there's no one of age that would have helped raise
I see
Heavy
what you mean.
Mando, and the armorer.
Yeah, there must be old ones. Some of them are just old. They all wear their helmets. What do we know?
Did they die on
Right?
Mandalore? Is that the lore?
I want to hear an old person voice behind one of these masks.
This is the way.
It gets too heavy, they just crumble. Maybe that's it. They can't take their suit off. They just fall, never to get up again. But I think that could be a great dynamic too to explore with Din Djarin and the person that took him under his wing, just because I feel like that is some of the reason he goes back for Grogu is that he was saved. Obviously, right? It doesn't take a genius to kind of put that together, and the fact that someone kind of went out of their way to save him, and he does the same. But I feel like it could have hit home harder if we did have that backstory, even if it is further down the line in a couple other episodes or even a couple other seasons. I feel like that could inform some decisions we get to see Din Djarin make, and kind of, if we on a rewatch, hit home harder of why he makes these decisions.
Yeah, I'm going to annoy myself real quick and say maybe that's what episode 2 should have been. The problem is this is the only kind of thing that you can say in hindsight, because the reality is if episode 2 was a flashback and we got exactly this, I would still be saying the exact same thing, which is like, yeah, I don't like the flashback episode. I like episodes 1 and 3. It's a good 1-2 punch. Yeah. So it's like I can't really say that in, good faith, but
Or you can just extend episodes 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, by just say 20 minutes each, that story, while putting a new story in the middle of that, which could serve as the second episode. If that makes sense, kind of a gradient. So then that way, it's not like you don't replace episode 2, you just restructure the first 3 episodes slightly different. Is maybe the solve there. But again, hindsight, retrospect, yada yada.
We're shitting on episode 2 a lot. I mean, you still do need the Mudhorn sequence. That is an important part of the story.
I like
but that's
episode
only
2.
like 10 minutes of episode 2, and
Yeah, exactly.
so there is still a lot more to do.
Only about 10 more minutes, though, unfortunately. Because that episode is short.
It's a short one. All right, then Mando goes and gets a new job from Grief Karga. And again, I don't care for the scene, just like in episode 1, it was after Max brought it up, IG-11 wanting to kill Grogu, and we're like, and that I just don't understand plot-wise how that makes sense in universe. That's also how I feel about all of them having tracking fobs.
Yeah.
Like, it makes for a cool moment here and at the end of the episode, but like, why are they so mad? I didn't see any of these fuckers on that planet looking for Grogu or hanging out with Kuiil. Like, were you trying? Why are you mad about this?
Also, legacy actor sitting at table.
Yeah.
Again.
I am certain that Grief Karga doesn't spend his entire this entire series sitting at that table. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, but 2 episodes now, I'm ready to see him do so. And he does do more in this episode. But
Yes. But so far, legacy actor at table.
yes. But I don't understand in universe how that computes that they all had tracking fobs and they're all bummed that Mando got it first when he just like flew there and flew back. Didn't seem like Mando did anything that special. It's not like he had to crack a code or something that they were too dumb to do. He just went there. Mm-hmm. Did you guys have that sensation watching this?
Hey, half the battle is just getting up in the day, Just doing the thing.
And then you see that guy that gets up at 6 and it's like, fuck you, man.
Exactly.
that is true. The morning guy. When he says, "Oh, I've done this, and this already before you even got out of bed."
Yep.
It's like, all right. I didn't have that exact feeling, but I did kind of have that conspiracy closed on me, where I said that maybe these people were hired by others. They made it pretty explicit that Grief Karga handed out many fobs to many people, so I was like, oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
When I said that there was a possibility that IG-11 or some of these other hunters would have been hired by somebody else who was working against Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
But Werner Herzog Grief Karga makes it very clear that he was the one who handed out many fobs to many people. So, that's kind of a shame. That kind of makes it a little less interesting than it was in my headcanon a week ago.
Yes.
But it's okay, because I still liked it, but I do still have that question of why does the client not really care about the life of the child as much as he's supposed to? Because we find out later that this child is supposed to be alive, that is required to be alive. But apparently when Dr. Pershing isn't there, the client is telling people, like, no, actually, I want this thing dead. And then he says, I can no longer guarantee your safety to Dr. Pershing. So it's like, okay, clearly the client and Moff Gideon are having some sort of falling out in the background, which makes sense why Moff Gideon comes in episode 7 or 8 or whatever he does, guns blazing. But I'm like, that's an interesting dynamic as well.
It is, which should be explored more. That's one of my biggest gripes with Mando is Moff Gideon, because he's really cool and mysterious, and it doesn't really go anywhere. But I want to see more of that. I think Star Wars is also very much built on this relationship of good versus evil. I know it's doing something different, but we're always used to seeing the other side, and we only see the other side through interactions with Din Djarin, basically, right? We never see Moff Gideon really by himself having a full story. Or exploring other things that don't lead to plot because we need to know something. And I wish we would, because that is an interesting aspect of the show. of like what's going on. Like, why is that? Like, I can only assume that the client has been around longer, and he knows what potentially, Jedi can do if if this thing lives or something. Like, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, he's older, he's wiser, he's been around more. But I don't know. And obviously, Pershing, I think has a bit of more of a heart to him, obviously. So that could be an aspect too.
Yeah. From what I recall, I think season 1 does Moff Gideon very well. Because, again, they really only introduced him at the very end of the season. But I agree. Like, I think they could have made Moff Gideon a much more iconic villain than he already is, had they given him a little bit more time to kind of tell his own story. Like, if they had just given him one episode in season 3, maybe they could have taken it away from Lizzo and Jack Black, and we could have seen him try to deal with some of these other warlords of the Imperial Remnant, and him, like, asserting his claim to the Emperor's throne or whatever. I think that could have been much more interesting. But I'm digressing.
I can't wait to rewatch that episode with you guys. Guns
I agree.
in season 3. You're gonna love it. It's gonna blow your mind how much of that episode does not contain Lizzo and Jack Black.
You have no idea how excited I am to watch that too, and I'm really hoping Max and I come away loving it, and you come away hating it.
I love how possible that is. Moving on to what I hope is my. All right, well, I'll at least confirm or commit to it being my smallest gripe for this episode, because and all we ever talk about is gripes, and it makes it sound like we don't like this show or Star Wars or anything, but that's just what you talk about, and I hate that it has to be that way. Like, I can't talk for a 25 minutes about how cool Mandalorian looks and the sensation I get in my balls when he shoots someone, but I love it. And so,
But it is there.
yeah.
All
So,
right, well, tell us what your gripe is. I'll defend it. I'm sure I like it.
my smallest gripe, and I wonder if they would have expanded upon it in season 2 like they did with Grogu, leaving the client's name the client and not giving that man a name, even in like a reference book or anything. That pisses me off. I hate that.
Now, I will defend that. Now, there is a certain amount of mystery that I think Star Wars is dependent on. And when that mystery is taken away, it becomes less interesting. I mean, the iconic example is Boba Fett. I mean, he was super popular after Empire Strikes Back, being just, masked villain that nobody really knows. No one knows his backstory, where he comes from or anything. And instantly took the fandom by storm, and then Return of the Jedi came out, and people didn't really like it as much, and it kind of killed him off, and they're like, oh, that's kind of lame, right? And then in the prequels, it just completely took the mask off, and we got too much information on Boba Fett, and people were like, yeah, it really didn't need all this. I think having this mysterious buyer be the client is necessary for setting up the mystery of, okay, who is he working for? What are they trying to do? Because sometimes Star Wars wants you asking those questions, and sometimes Star Wars doesn't. And when they have a character who's just called the client, they are prompting you to ask that question. This is an appropriate time to speculate. What are they doing with the child? Why do they want the child? When they come out and they say, no, here's a former Inquisitor, his name is Marok, that's not the appropriate time to speculate as to who he might be. They came out and they said, this guy's name is Marok. You guys can shut the fuck up about it. He is who he is. And then here I am on the pod, circa, year and a half ago, saying that I think it's going to be, what's his name?
Starkiller? Galen
Starkiller, yeah. And then it turns out not to be. And they're just like,
so
we
young
told
and
you. It's Marok. That's his name.
Max, that's so funny because I 1000% agree, except in this context of this show, because I think that's a great point. 1000% with everything besides the fact that I feel like they did the first 4 episodes and they did a test audience and they were like, wait, we don't, at this time when you're watching, the child is just the child. The Mandalorian is just Mando. The client is just the client. None of these characters have names at all. You don't find out Grogu's name until episode 5 or 6, and you don't find out Din Djarin until the last 2. Yeah, and then you don't find out season 2, and you don't find out Din Djarin's name until episode 8 of season 1, maybe, or maybe it's even in season 2. So you don't find out anybody's name, and so part of me feels like they wanted to. This almost feels like if ChatGPT was a thing, I feel like it almost would be like ChatGPT like outline of a story with these characters' names. But I don't know. There's something about the making of the show that I think they wanted to be very secretive about everything. But I think the client, more or less, that's just like a joke because nobody has a name in this episode or this show. That I feel like should. But yeah, the client. Just throw out a name, John Smith, something like that. Just give me a name to hang on to.
Yeah,
or he's gonna be known as
asking,
Werner Herzog forever.
I'm not asking for a backstory. I'm just asking to be able to buy the toy that has a name instead of the client, because there are several transactions in all of Star Wars, and so several people can be a client, and he is not a cool or iconic enough character to be the client over all transactions over all time in all of Star Wars. And yeah, it just pisses me off. We almost ran into this problem with The Mandalorian, especially when they introduced a ton of other Mandalorians, but he is so popular that it still works just fine. And it would have pissed me off if they never named Grogu, but they did. Yep. And so the client is the only one that I gripe with.
To your point, how many random background aliens in the cantina in A New Hope do have a name? Because you're right. When you buy
all of them,
their action figures, they have their name on it, right? So maybe after the fact, after season 1 was done airing, I will concede that maybe there could have been a reference book that like finally dropped, like, oh, by the way, this was this guy's name. But, maybe that's also a thread that they're keeping in their back pocket. And they're just like, look, there's a story about this character in the future. And we're going to wait for the right time to come along for someone to write a novel all about the client's backstory and his feud with Moff Gideon.
Unless his backstory explicitly needs him to not have a name, that doesn't matter. I'm not asking for backstory or details around his character. Literally just a name. Mm-hmm. And I barely even need it to be canon. It just bothers me. And now I'm getting heated because you went on that long-winded rant about Boba Fett that is tangentially related, and you did the same thing when I was complaining about Andor season 2, and it's a classic straw man argument, and it pisses me off to no end. It's not the same thing. Yeah, I know they over-explained Boba Fett, and that's not what I'm asking them to do in this instance. I digress.
No. We found our middle ground. There should have been some sort of reference material after season 1 was done airing that could have disclosed his name.
My favorite part of that, Luke, was you saying that he went on this long-winded thing, and I feel like that story Max just went on was like a quarter of all the things that the tangents I've went on.
Because I just know exactly what he's about to say, because he said the same shit every time we talked about Andor season 2. I've heard that rant word for word several times, and it was dumb then too. It's not dumb. It's just a straw man argument.
This is episode 3 of The Mandalorian, and the client is like the 5th most important person in the story. How much information do you want at this point?
The difference between the client's level of mystery and intrigue and 1980 Boba Fett level of mystery and intrigue already just makes them categorically uncomparable. It's not the same. The things you can't compare those two things.
You can compare it to whatever you want. I'll think of a better example. But through this show so far, Mandalorian season 1 through episode 3 has handled the client very well. The name doesn't bother me.
I agree with that. Through episode 3, and I mean even after he dies, I'm not mad that he was never named on screen. Like half the Ewoks aren't named on screen, but it's just the fucking world we live in. Just give everything a name, Disney.
I think a lot of the Ewoks are named in the credits, though. Maybe that's the compromise they could have gone in. Maybe they could have dropped his name in a credit.
Yeah,
no, because they still would have wanted. Well, I don't know. I'd have to think.
I think especially because it's Werner Herzog. Because now here we are saying Werner Herzog mostly half the time, and then the client the second half of the time. It's like if it was just a kind of an unnamed actor, but they had to get the scariest German guy possible. It's like, yeah, we're gonna say his name all the time.
They should have just really confused everyone and just said Werner Herzog as himself. Like, does he exist in this universe?
I mean, he directs movies and does stage plays.
Oh my god, I just peeked at how far along we are on our podcast relative to how far along we are in this episode. Apparently we have a lot to say about episode 3. Who knew? I promise we'll get back on topic shortly.
Every week.
I know. Mando goes back to his ship and looks at the dinger that's missing and misses Grogu, and then he goes to rescue Grogu. I already talked about that in the front end of this episode. Do you guys have anything else to say about that beat specifically that we didn't already discuss?
No. For me, the next
beat.
I feel like I know you were like 45 minutes in now, but also I feel like the second half it's hard to distinguish full action scenes and sequences. So I'm very interested in how you break it down, because I feel like I just keep coming to the point that the whole second half is great.
Yes, the next like 8 minutes or so are pretty indistinguishable. Like the time when Mando decides to go rescue Grogu, he like infiltrates the compound, rescues Grogu, and gets out. And then
amazing.
Up until he gets to the crowd outside, I'll say we can talk about that sequence, because that's what Max you specified as your top lightsaber or lightsaberless, spaceless fight scene, right? Not the part with Grief Karga at the end. The part before.
No, I kind of put it all together.
Right.
It definitely starts. It definitely starts with Mando storming the compound, but it goes through the fight in the streets.
Oh, you got to include the fight in the streets, because that's when the other Mandalorians show up.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
the fight in the compound, that was cool. Great fight choreography.
Yes, good use of all of his kit. Some of it was a little gratuitous, like when he pulls out the flamethrower to burn one of the stormtroopers. That was not the most effective way of doing that, nor was it the quickest. And he had his gun in his hand anyway. It's like, why didn't you just shoot this guy too? And I know why you didn't just shoot him, because of the audience, and I appreciate that. I would rather see a stormtrooper burn to death rather than get shot again.
Or pizzazz.
Yeah, that happens several times. He wrist cables that one guy and yanks him back and then stabs him. And it's like, this isn't a stealth mission. You were shooting people. Just shoot them.
Correct.
Especially,
you came in very loud.
I just saw a TikTok also of the scene of Kleia walking through the hospital to kill Luthen, and the difference between that scene and this scene is like, she sees a guy, plop, dead. Next guy, shot, dead. Like, Mando could have done that in universe the exact same way, and the show would have been far worse for it. I am glad that we got the Andor version that way and the Mandalorian version this way.
I would like to see those reversed.
We knew we weren't going to get that because we had a James Bond Q scene where he gets his whistling birds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have to think, oh, I wonder if he's going to use that at some point.
That'd be funny to see it reversed, and Kleia does that Black Widow leg wrap move that she does in every movie on all these Imperial guards.
I want to see her use the flamethrower in the middle of the hospital and go unnoticed.
I also really liked the sequence where he gets Grogu from Dr. Pershing, and he decides not to kill Dr. Pershing because Dr. Pershing is trying to protect Grogu from Mando. That's a delicate scene to work out such that Pershing doesn't die, and it's not weird.
Also, kind of
I like that as well.
Unfortunate for Pershing in the long run, I guess.
Pershing is a pretty tragic character, I'd say. Nothing but unfortunate things happen to him, really, start to end. All right, and then the street scene at the end. Matt, what'd you think about it? Loved it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, having all the different Mandalorian. We're at the Mandalorian part. Or are we talking about when? Well, I guess we're past Grief Karga.
All of it, I'd say. All the rest of the episode from now on, I'd say.
One of my favorite moments is right after the flamethrower when he checks on Grogu and he's wrapped up like a little baby in a blanket. I love that scene. He just sees his little eyes. Yeah, I mean,
sometimes it's just a sack of flour and he's doing barrel rolls and stuff.
Yes,
and they don't show any skin.
That is true. It's right after when they're in like the little transport car. But yeah, I mean, obviously the scene is 10 out of 10 great. Seeing a Mandalorian in live action with like a Gatling gun is great. Again, in this setting, you've lived it. It's, yeah, I mean, again, kind of undistinguishable, unfortunately, like not watching it frame by frame or something, but like the action scene is great. You feel how close and tight it is and scary, and you get to see all these different Mandalorian. It's great. In season 3, I feel like a lot of the Mandalorian armor to me gets a little too wacky and out there. Like I like when like Sabine has like the spray paint aspect, But when like a bunch of them have the spray paint aspect, it gets a little wonky. So I feel like all the Mandalorian costuming in this scene and in this season feel really grounded and real to me. And so I also really appreciate that, where everybody looks different and yet cohesive and the same without trying too hard. And that's like, that seems like a small detail, but I think it is something that's like really hard to pull off. Same thing kind of like with the Power Rangers, right? They're all like the same, but also a little different beyond their colors. It's like a fun thing. I feel like each one has a little bit something different. Like, it's like, oh yeah, the big guy, like, it's like their guns are distinguishable. Their markings are a little different. I think that goes a long way in my book.
It goes for the armorer Mando and the big guy, but all the other background Mandos I thought were identical. I see your points, and I disagree fully. One man's grounded and realistic is another man's bland and boring. So I prefer the season 3 when they get more interesting, but that's just me.
It's too much.
The thing that gets me about this scene is I understand the whole point is that bounty hunters have a code and you have to stick to the code, and he's breaking the code, and that's the sin. He's starting to ask questions about what are you going to do with the child, and then obviously he comes in and he steals the child and kills the client, he doesn't kill the client, but he kills all of his stormtroopers or whatever. Things that are very clearly against the code. But I still don't quite understand, like, what the code is or what kind of loyalty bounty hunters to it, such that all the other bounty hunters in the town heard that he was taking this kid back, and they all decided to band together to try to stop him in the middle of the street. Like, what was in it for them?
I was wondering that too. Do they think if they kill Mando right now and take the asset and deliver him to the client that they will also get the bounty? Because I don't think he would give out a second bounty for the same asset, even though he is technically...
It's already been delivered. It was a hefty amount of Beskar. I don't think he just has Camtonos of those lying around.
Nice.
But does he? I was wondering that too during this episode. I don't think he does, but he might.
How rich is the client?
I don't know. We don't know anything about him, and that's an appropriate amount of intrigue. The details around who he is, not the details around what he's named.
That could have been answered in the name, though. At the end of the credits, it could have just said Warner Herzog as Les Wexner, and we'd be like, "Oh shit! All right."
Who's Les Wexner?
The rich guy in Ohio.
Oh,
Who's been to Epstein's Island, right? He's a pretty shitty guy.
He's on the logs?
Yeah, he's pretty connected to him.
That rich. Bummer.
One day ago, I
we-
just Googled it. Transcripts of DOJ's interviews with Ghislaine Maxwell reveals Epstein's further ties to Les Wexner. 1 day ago, sorry. Just Googled his name real quick.
That's like
Yeah, they're pretty close.
Yeah,
Super
we mentioned
logs.
the log. You know who else is on the logs? George Lucas.
George Lucas. Yeah.
Is that true? Why do we think that?
Because
I don't
Isn't
even
he?
think that's true.
it's the truth.
I think we're gonna get sued for slander at some point.
Give it a Google.
Well, now I should Google it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's on the flight logs.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep joking about it then.
Yeah, no way to spin that. It shouldn't be on those flight logs, George.
No, there's a lot of reasons you could have visited Jeff Epstein. He was still a financier. Maybe George needed help getting his movies produced.
Maybe. I have heard George Lucas doesn't have much money.
Yeah. You know who else was on there? Bruce Willis, Kevin Spacey, Kate Blanchett, Leonardo DiCaprio, though. Which I'm sure all are great people.
Not Kate Blanchett.
Not my favorite.
I know.
You mean I can't watch
I
Blue
give
Jasmine again?
I have more of
Sorry.
a benefit of the doubt for most of the girls on the flight logs because they at least weren't probably having sex with underage girls. They very well might have been. So maybe I shouldn't. But like Cameron Diaz and Kate Blanchett.
There could also be sex traffickers, though, right? That's the problem, is that women are more... this is going
Oh, they
too
were
far.
bringing girls there.
I think
Yeah, would be-
that could be the thing. Yeah. But anyway, let's
that's
get off
just,
this.
That's just as bad. Yeah. All right.
That's what happened with that girl from Smallville. I forget her
Yes,
name.
that's
She was
exactly-
in a cult that was doing that.
That's exactly what happened.
Chloe Sullivan was her character name. Allison Mack was the actress.
Yes.
Good for you.
I like Smallville. I still watch sometimes.
Cultural touchstone of the early 2000s.
And it was back when theme songs were good, and they would just have the
Save Me
character
by
and,
Remy Zero.
their name very gratuitously. Like
Actor.
I guess shows still do that. No,
No,
they don't. 'Cause
not the
shows,
same.
They just do a stupid little animation, and then they have all the actor names, and you don't
Yeah,
know
they're more of a
who's who.
jingle nowadays.
Yeah.
As much as I
need to
love
see
Breaking
the person's
Bad.
face while I see the person's name.
Yes.
Game of Thrones was especially bad at that because they had so many actors.
Yeah. And they just did
It was like
sets.
10 minutes long.
Yeah.
But then it's like, but the animation, like that intro sequence is really cool. So, pros and cons.
Exactly.
Anyway, the Mandalorians come and save Mando and Grogu, and then they go to the ship. And Grief Karga is at the ship again. At this point, was anyone else getting kind of annoyed with Grief Karga? Just like, not as on a character level, just like on a, could we wrap this up level? Like, I know, maybe it's because I've seen it already, but I know Grief Karga is not really a threat, and he's not even antagonistic here pretty shortly. So I was just annoyed to see him again. Like, come on, aren't we done with this episode? The Mandalorians came and they saved them.
Yeah, and then he gets shot, and then he has to make that big reveal that he has the Beskar, that it got hit, and it's like, oh, it's the Beskar that he already pulled out of his pocket when he was talking to him the first time. It's like, all right, we get it. Yeah, I'm with you. I was never like a huge Grief Karga guy though. So,
Oh, actually, I'll save this. Well, do you? I just had a thought that I was going to share, but I thought I'd save it for my force for thought. But then I'd be hijacking your force for thought. But yours sucks, doesn't it? You want me to share mine instead?
yeah, please, let's do it.
All right. Well, the episode's almost over, so we just got to wrap up. Final thoughts. Oh, Mando sees the jetpack and says, "I got to get one of those." That scene also I thought could have been cut. I mentioned last week and the week before the tonal pendulum of the Mandalorian swings from dark and gritty in episode 1 to light and airy in episode 2, back to dark and gritty in episode 3. I'm curious to see where episode 4 will take us, but I'm pretty sure it's light and airy if I remember correctly. That's where we get those gifs of Grogu sipping tea. So
Yep.
we'll see how it really plays out. I don't remember that episode that well either. But I thought this scene was kind of tonally, or that line, I don't know. It felt like he could have not been there. Did you guys like that moment?
That should have.
I loved that moment.
Oh, good.
That should be the way he gets any new item that he carries. He should always see it and say that. I gotta get me one of those.
Get me one of
That's
them.
his catchphrase instead of "This is the way." I gotta get me one of them.
Give me that.
The Mandalorian, give me that.
No, I love it because it's like the Mandalorians need jetpacks. Of course they do. And it was so satisfying seeing them all come in and save them using the jetpacks. And then when he's like, I gotta get one of those. I forget the exact words that he used. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a fun fist pump moment where you're just like, hell yeah, you do. I don't know. I like it.
That brings us to the end of the episode. This was a good episode. I know we spent a lot of our time complaining that slight detour around mystery and intrigue around Max's debate strategy and how it pisses me off, and the flight logs. But thank you for sticking with us through it all.
I was about to say, we wasted more time talking about Smallville.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm gonna really hit my stride on hosting these Mandalorian rewatch episodes in the second half of the season. I think we said before we started recording we're gonna swap off. Also, I've talked to people that listen to our podcast, not like actual fans reaching out to me, like my friends and family, the only people that I assume actually listen.
No.
But I do know that there are people that don't actually know us that listen. So thank you for that. That's exciting. But I always mention like, oh yeah, I hosted that one, or Max or Matt hosted that one. I think most people don't know the difference.
Oh yeah,
Have you guys found that to be the case as well?
Look, that's the goal, right? We're doing it so well. It's seamless. You can't see the cracks behind the curtain. We're doing it.
That must be it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a flattering way of looking at it. I think that's how I'll choose to take it.
Do you think people notice the difference when one of us hosts versus another person?
No, because we all hijack left and right.
Yeah.
I talk 45% of the time, I feel like, no matter what's going on.
Well, good. For what it's worth, I am hosting the season 1 Mandalorian rewatch series, and I'll do a better job next week because I dropped the ball this week and in week 1, but week 2 went okay. We'll see where we go from here. But does anyone have any force for thought to leave us with? Oh, I do. It came to me while we were having that discussion. Oh my god, now I don't remember why it came up. But the thing I was going to say
2 seconds ago.
I know. Fans like to complain about how Qui-Gon is kind of a bum for getting stabbed once and dying when people get stabbed all the time and live. And in one of the most recent issues of the Jedi Knights comic series, Qui-Gon gets stabbed twice and lives. So everyone
how
can
quickly
do away.
did he get medical treatment? He was in the planet's core, stabbed, and he was there for a long time. Think about how much time passes when Obi-Wan is just dangling there, right? I mean,
you don't got to
couldn't
convince
get
me,
medical
but you
attention.
can't deny the optics of some people being stabbed and
I
living, and
understand
him
the
being
optics.
stabbed and dying doesn't look very flattering for Qui-Gon. But he got his moment. He tanked some stabs as well in his day.
What if the Qui-Gon pulled like a Jim Morrison? You know, people theorize Jim Morrison, Elvis Presley fake their deaths so they can go live a normal life. So what if he was like, no, I'm doing it this time. I'm faking my way out. Or him and Darth Maul secretly lovers. He pretends to die. Darth Maul's going to kill Obi-Wan because he doesn't have any moral quandaries with that. Little does Qui-Gon know, Obi-Wan, really powerful, kills Darth Maul. Qui-Gon sees his lover die, and then does not know where to go and just decides to deuce out himself so they can be together in the afterlife.
What? Out there theory. I loved hearing that. So Qui-Gon is watching this. Maul dies, and Qui-Gon's like, oh shit, I guess I really do have to die.
Yep.
Oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. All right,
new headcanon.
we'll leave everyone with that. Thanks for listening, folks. Episode 4 of The Mandalorian for next week. We'll see you then.
See you, Sammy.